Hello everyone, I'm back, and today I just wanted to talk about something that I had learned along my journey, and it's actually health issues, believe it or not. I unfortunately suffered, and I still do, but nowhere near as much as I used to, from migraines. I had severe migraines. I had them as a child, and then definitely as an adult. To be honest, I had mine 15 days out of a month. I also was on medication, preventive medication, and then I was also on the ones that you took to make a migraine go away. I don't remember the name. Nope, I don't remember the names of them anymore. But yeah, I was on migraine medication. Kind of find out, as we know, migraines are stress related. So, my health was affected because of, I believe, the stress that I experienced being a Jehovah's Witness. The reason I say that is because I came across a book called Frequency, and I did not realize how electrical our body is. I have notes here, so give me a second, I'll just turn the page. So I learned, that we are electrical beings, and each of our organs vibrate at a certain frequency. Every cell, every tissue, all resonates at a certain frequency. So our body has frequency levels that can be affected by stress. So stress can damper down that frequency, which, as they say, stress can kill you. So unfortunately, when I was 41, I thought I was having a stroke, and went to the hospital, went to the emergency room. By the time I got to the hospital, I looked like I had a stroke. The left side of my body was completely, it had slumped. My face had slid. I could not use my left arm, and at this point I was in the bed, but got to the emergency room. They took me straight back, and they ran tests, and at the end he said that I had no visible signs of a stroke. Fortunately, I had really good insurance at the time. They had put me in the tube, put the dye in me, put me in the tube, and put me in the machine to look for any scar tissue from a stroke. And the doctor leaned in to me, and he told me that I was perfectly healthy and that I did not have a stroke and there was no scar tissues. He said this is a stress-induced event. This is stress-induced. He says, I don't know what you have going on in your life, but you need to remove it from your life. So that really woke me up to how bad stress can affect your life. But I didn't think I was that stressed out. And the reason I didn't think I was that stressed out is because I had spent majority of my life in that state. And I didn't realize it until I saw this chart. And the chart's by David R. Hawkins. And I have a screenshot over here. I'll try to leave a link to it because I have not learned how to post things within the video as of yet. But the chart is called Levels of Consciousness Chart, and it's by David R. Hawkins. And at the very bottom of the chart, which starts at 0 and goes all the way up to 1,000. So death is 0, shame is 20, which is humiliation and miserable. So I thought about the times that I was disfellowshipped. Well, I was disfellowshipped once, but I'm publicly approved twice. But just all of that, the shunning that I received because of this fellowshipping. And that alone was just extremely humiliating, and you're miserable. And the whole thing that you have to go to the brothers to talk about what you had done wrong, that in itself was humiliating, because unfortunately I had an extremely bad experience with some of the brothers that I actually went to for help, but they turned around and did not help me. And I found out through a sister that I had known who was actually an elder's daughter, but years later, she's like, you never had to go to them and talk about what you had going on. That was between you and Jehovah. But no one ever told me that. They always said, go to the brothers and talk about what you've done wrong. So that's what I thought I had to do. And then the next one was guilt. So of course guilt was that. And then that's blame and evil. And then there's apathy, which is 50, which is despair and hopelessness. And I thought about the despair that we felt as witnesses, waiting for Armageddon to come, and then it doesn't come. And then the hopelessness of dealing with the fact that you were told that there's a possibility that you might not make it to paradise. So it was like a hopeless situation, because you didn't know if you didn't do the unforgivable sin, and then you wouldn't even be allowed into paradise. And then you're forever forgotten, because you're not going to be resurrected, and then the memory of you is going to be, written off from everyone who might have known and loved you. So then the grief, so the regret, and then it says regret and tragic. So of course the regret of sinning, and then the regret of a decision that you make, because I said they shun you to force you into feeling regret for what you've done, so that you'll come back and not repeat what you've done before. So the whole shunning is to make you feel terrible, so that you'll come back. As I say, come back to Jehovah. And then the desire, which is craving and disappointing. So then a constant reminder that you've sinned, and that you're a sinner. And they used to give the baking pan example of a loaf of bread, and that loaf of bread pan has a dent in it. And if you continue to use that baking pan to bake your bread, then every loaf of bread that you bake is going to have that dent in it. That lets you know how far back I go. So I don't even know if they use that example anymore. So every loaf of bread that's made with this pan that's dented, then it's going to have a dent. And so it's they use it as an example to say that we're all born as sinners. We're all sinful. And that's just the state of who we are and how it is what they taught. And with that being said, being punished for something that you had no control over just didn't make sense. But we were told to accept that, because that's what it is, because we're sinners. And so then pride, which is scorn and demanding. And then of course anger, which is hate and antagonist. So I equated all that to, with the demanding part and the hate part, is that witnesses thought that they were the only ones that Jehovah was going to save, that the rest of the world was going to be destroyed because they were worldly and they were not going to make it. And so that to me is like a form of hate, because you feel like you're better than, and then you're judging others. And yet we came with this whole message of love, but yet we didn't deal with anyone that wasn't witnesses. At least we were advised to, because bad association spoils useful habits. So all those years, the relationship I could have had with my family, because my family, except for one other aunt and her daughter, we were the only ones that were witnesses. And I have a large family. My great-grandmother had 19 children, 15 living. And then all of her kids had kids. So I had a large family. And unfortunately, I am not as close to them as I could have been if I was not raised a Jehovah's Witness. So when I looked at that, I thought how sad, because I lived majority of my life in shame and guilt and apathy and grief and fear. And those are all low frequency numbers. And within those frequency numbers, you're going to have, as it points out here, it says mental illness, suffering, drug intoxication, narrowed consciousness, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences. It says possession, states of unconsciousness, REM sleep, and coma, and death, which is the zero. So, and then it also, on the other chart, it mentions that you're basically living in your own hell and you're living in purgatory. So the way they set it up with all the fear mongering and the fear that they put in you to stay in the organization so you can go to paradise, because if you don't go to paradise, you're forever forgotten. And as far as heaven goes, there was only 144,000 that were going to heaven, and those were those who were worthy to be judges over the world after Armageddon. And so I realized that a lot of my health issues were because of, sad to say, my belief system. My health issues, my stress, my adrenals being taxed out, completely stressed out, completely drained. The medication I took for years, and the medication I was on, I found out one time I was feeling terrible. I was going to the hospital like every 30 days, having to get shots, anti-nausea shots, nosebleeds, like just beyond stress. And you're thinking, what? Why would I allow myself to get that stressed? Being disfellowship and wanting to go back, it lasted for a long time, several years. And the brothers were just, I don't know, there was an issue there. And then one brother who became the new overseer looked at my situation, and he actually apologized to me. He said, I do not understand why you got disfellowshipped. It should have never happened. And he says, I want it was called a reinstatement letter. You write a letter saying that you want to be, your case to be looked at and you to be reinstated. And that way you won't be shunned anymore, and you can actually interact with all your brothers and sisters again. So he actually apologized to me that it should have never happened. And I was confused as to why I didn't get disfellowship, because the reason was absolutely asinine. And I can only think that this brother had an issue with me for whatever reason, because he and I didn't interact. I knew his wife, that was about it, but there was a problem. I can talk about that in another story where other sisters talked about how women were treated differently than the brothers, especially when it came to public approval or disfellowshipping. So being stressed out about trying to make my way back into the hall, and feeling completely like alone, because I've been a witness since I was 9 years old. I didn't associate with my family outside the family, and then they looked at me a little different because I considered myself a witness. So I felt alone. Mind you, my mother still talked to me, my brother still talked to me, but that's a whole nother story too. So out in the world, I was torn between the hall and the world. And so being disfellowship, being lonely, I automatically just started, not automatically, I started socializing with those who weren't witnesses so I would not feel so alone. And this chart did help me to see where my health, a lot of my health issues came from. And it was a mental and emotional torture that led to my physical body being affected by it, to the point to where, I thought I had a stroke. Well, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll come back and talk about it some more later. Thanks.